Hey, what's up? It's Kevin Rogers. Welcome to Copy Chief Radio, brought to you by copychief.com. See how that works? Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Kev Rogers here. Thanks for tuning in to Copy Chief Radio. Excited to be talking to my friend Chris Orzechowski today. Yeah, I'm sure you know Chris. He has become one of the premier email copywriting leaders of our industry, a guy who shares, so openly everything he's doing that's working. Hopefully you're watching his email breakdowns. He does one a week where he takes one of his favorite and, proven to convert, which means they've been around a while, emails from an e-commerce company and breaks down what they're doing in these emails, how they work, the big takeaways. It's like a masterclass in every breakdown. Now, I'm really excited because Chris is launching a newsletter. And March 1st is when the first one goes to print. Man, it's going to be not just like, there's a lot of newsletters out there, but what's cool and different about Chris is it's not going to just be his thoughts about email and where the industry's headed and how to do it better, which you will get. But every one of them is like a cheat sheet, like a game plan. He's going to break down how to use a particular kind of email so that you can save these, stack them up, and have like the ultimate email swipe file, you know what I mean? Game plan. And this is evergreen stuff. Like Chris is careful not to just pick trendy stuff. Oh, this is working today because it took advantage of a news cycle or a fad. It's got to have the elements that make it evergreen. So, you're on you're getting his newsletter every month. You're getting a new piece of the puzzle, making you a bulletproof email marketer. Today, Chris is going to come on and talk to us about why email is still the best way to sell and why e-commerce companies are starting to use email more and more, which is a more traditional sort of like visually driven, just click and order kind of a thing. Why email is proven over and over to be the most effective way they can increase their sales. So Chris Orzechowski, what's up, my brother? Welcome.
Thanks so much, Kev. What an intro, man. That was awesome. Thank you.
Well, you're doing a lot of awesome stuff, dude. I love working with you and I love watching you shine. You just have a lot to share, man. And it's no mistake that you have your background is you're a teacher. You're a high school teacher and you know how to win attention from people who don't want to give it to you.
That's for sure.
And then it helped them do stuff that helps them.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's like the most important thing for email, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just getting attention. I mean, you can start at subject lines and do just a course you have in Copy Chief, one of our money skills courses. Like people, I love it that, it was not only hugely popular the week we did it and we had the workshop and everything, but people come in every day and dive into it and are blown away. So again, the other thing I dig, dude, is just, and I'll quit gloating on you so we can get to the meat here, is that your stuff is evergreen. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people teach trendy stuff about marketing, but what I love is like you're on top of what companies are doing and why things are effective, but you pull out the things that'll never change about human nature and why we buy.
Yeah. I mean, and in email too, like the one thing I always say about email is that just in life in general, obviously first impressions last a lifetime, right? And I think that we as like human beings, our first impression of email was that it's this medium where, you send personal messages, not unlike direct mail, right? Like people wanted to send letters to each other. And then all of a sudden marketers came in and kind of ruined everything, right? Now 90% of everything you get is an ad, but we still always view email as that personal message because that's what we knew what it was like from the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't think that'll change. And I think that the things that people pay attention to are messages that actually look like emails and not look like these incredibly well-designed, HTML, like super coded with the GIFs and the buttons and the flash sales. Like, that stuff, it'll work, right? But I think people long for those personal looking messages, right? Like that's kind of what's missing nowadays.
That's a good point because that is how we use email. And that's one of the advantages of it, I say, and why it's so effective. I always think about, you would sit with a friend or your spouse or whoever and scroll through social media together and talk about stuff and laugh about stuff, or maybe watch a video or something, right? But when it comes to email, you're like, what? All right, I need to be alone.
Yeah.
I mean, emails is really personal, right? It's your private conversation. And like I do, the way people respond to even if we took the same, and I do this all the time, I'll take an email that felt good to me or got a good, sometimes I'll even post it on social before I send it out as an email. But I will literally cut and paste the same exact message minus the salutations, right? And post it on Facebook. It might get a similar amount of response and similar, people saying the same stuff, but they say it differently. Because on social media, we know we have an audience. And so everybody's always performing on social media. And in email, when they hit reply, it's super personal. And they talk to you like it really is a one-on-one conversation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you'll notice too, I'm sure you've seen this, there's people who might not be your customer yet, but they'll be engaging. And over time, it's just like you literally build an actual, social relationship with these people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most, important assets you could possibly have, right? To have that kind of relationship capital with your audience, because I think a lot of companies they take a very short-sighted approach to the whole email thing. And they say, well, we'll just send out a sale every day. Or, like I was on Brooks Brothers email list because I'm on a lot of lists. So I was on their list. I think I bought a shirt from them one time. And like, I swear to God, man, over the course of 6 weeks, I think I got like 40% off sales. I'm like, okay, I get it. Everything is 40% off. Like, there's no reason for me to keep coming back. Eventually, like if I'm not in the market right then and there at that very moment,
right,
I'm just going to realize, oh, there's nothing important ever in this email. So I don't even need to read it because I already know what's there. And there's no bond because it's just people ramming another sale down my throat. And like, yeah, you have a couple million people on your list. You send those out every day. You're going to make some sales, but I don't think it's the best way for a brand to really have long-term growth and, a loyal brand following. I just think that is what kind of burns people out.
100%. Yeah. And that's what I love about your breakdowns is you look for those kinds of emails, CD Baby and companies who are just doing it differently. They could have easily made it as just a functional, okay, we got your order. You'll have it in 3 weeks. Take care, Instead, they make it an epic moment that just brings you, everybody who's ever opened that email just is full of joy and amusement and goes, wow, instantly their relationship to that company has changed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, part of us, we know, like in our minds, we know that these emails most likely are blasts, right? They're broadcasts, whatever term you want to use. But it's just something about the way that it looks and feels. And the way it smells, right? When you open your inbox, like you can smell the pitch coming in some emails.
Yeah.
Like it's like a sense, and we know, like in our conscious minds, like okay, I know that this person sells something every day or however often they email, but you're willing to read it because it's interesting. And one of the people I'm a huge fan of in the advertising world is kind of a lesser known advertising guy. His name is Howard Gossage. And I think, Kevin, you were the person who probably turned me on to him in the first place a while back. And I finally got around to reading his book. And one of probably the most important quote in that book was that people don't read ads. They read what interests them. Sometimes that's an ad. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, holy shit, man, that is so profound because it's true. Like, yeah, people will read ads if it is interesting to them. But if they see that it's an ad coming from a mile away, unless they are hell-bent on buying that thing, and it's, as you say, a red light problem, right, in their life, and they're not going to really engage with it the way that you want them to. And they're going to know next time I get an email from that person, yep, there's a sale coming.
40% off. Right, exactly. That's all they want me to know. Yeah, they got nothing else for me. Yeah, I love that. All right, so I want to dig into some of the great stuff you want to share on this. And again, man, I could just wrap the psychology of it all day with you because I love how you think on this stuff. But let's focus on e-commerce a little bit more because I love that they're kind of getting with it, kind of getting hip to email marketing now. So why are they just picking up on this? Like what do you see making it click for them that email is going to be helpful?
Oh man, that's a great question. Yeah, it's funny because I've met so many people in the e-commerce world and so many of them are super, super smart, like genius level people. But when it comes to email, I've just seen time and time again that a lot of people just don't know what they're doing. And I think things are trending in a positive direction because there's so many more people reaching out and asking me and other people I know, I'm getting so many more inquiries from, e-commerce companies who really want to step up their email game. And I think there's a few things happening. Number one, obviously, if you started advertising on Facebook back in 2015, 2016 versus what you're paying now, you'll notice that the costs have went up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for most advertising channels, as some of these tech companies and these social media companies have matured and developed and kind of, they're not exactly expanding inventory at record rates like they were before. Now they have to continue to grow their business. So they do that by raising their prices, which is perfectly understandable. That's what they have to do. Nothing wrong with that, right? But I think a lot of people, a lot of brands who might have made a killing a few years ago are starting to get to this level where acquisition costs are so high that it's harder and harder to make a profit on the front end or to even break even. So that's one big thing. Another big thing is that some people are just sick and tired of their ad accounts getting shut down for literally no reason, or the algorithm changing, or certain other things that are out of their control changing. And, some people who are just dependent on only Google or only Facebook.
One channel, right.
If that thing takes a crap on you, then you're done, right? What are you going to do? Like, you have no other way to bring in money. You have inventory, you have employees, you have all of these other factors that you have to think about in your business. And you can't just keep getting jerked around by companies who may not necessarily have your business's best interest in heart. So I think also people are just starting to realize that there's just a lot of money in your email list, because out of all of the people in the world, people that like you the most, that are most likely willing to give you money, are the people on your email list, because they volunteered to be there. They've either voluntarily bought one of your products and opted in that way, and they've opted to stick around, or they have voluntarily opted in onto your website and said, yes, I'd like to hear more from you because I like you. So, in terms of like, who are your best customers and like, who should we put our focus into getting more of these people? Like, why not go to the people who love you the most, the people who are proven buyers of your products? Like, why would we ignore those people, all the people on your email list, and go to absolute strangers who have never heard from us and try to make them like us, right? Like, I think that's the thought that's going through a lot of people's minds. They're finally starting to realize, you know what, we're leaving a lot of money on the table here and making it really hard on ourselves and kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, going to cold traffic. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. You absolutely should. It's an important part of your business, right? For most e-com companies. But I think it's just a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to, increase your profit margin and increase your revenue if you're focusing heavily on email.
I've noticed something recently, and I don't know if it's one particular payment system, but how everywhere it's like, you use your card, you put it in the thing, they flip the iPad around, you sign it, all that, right? It seems like now that is an automatic opt-in to get email marketing now. And I don't know, I know you're not on the tech side like I'm not, right? A lot of the times it's like noticing something as a consumer like other people. But I think that that's an advantage of e-commerce as well. I guess it's not e-commerce. I didn't buy it online necessarily. But that does open the door, like basically paying digitally sort of opens the door to have a communication, right? It's like, all right, here's your receipt. And now we can start to have this conversation. How much of a customer are you and do you want to be? Like an opportunity to start this relationship. So even if it's like a business I visited and used my card to pay, I've noticed I'll start getting emails and welcome messages from them and things like that, right? So while things are compliance is getting harder in some ways, the opportunities seem to be expanding to have email marketing through e-commerce sales.
Yeah, there's definitely becoming like lower and lower barriers to eventually, obviously, we'll get to the point when we all have chips in our bodies and we're using I think Amazon is actually testing that, like some system where you pay with your hand. I don't know. It's some weird dystopian type stuff going on. We won't get into it, but it's definitely getting to that point where the barriers in terms of like, communicating with people digitally in a medium that they're comfortable with, which is 9 times out of 10 email, is just getting easier and easier. And that's why I just always scratch my head when I see people say, oh, email's dead, or, oh, it's not that important. And then all those people usually a year later have pivoted their business model and are selling something different. Meanwhile, all of us email marketers are still chugging along, making a healthy amount of money.
Exactly. Yeah. I always love what Tim Ferriss says. People say, oh, young people don't use email anymore. And he goes, yeah, when they start? When they get a job.
Yeah, and they start buying things online.
Suddenly right.
And then they're addicted, just like everyone else. So
that's
the way it is.
It's great. Wow, that's Really good stuff. We'll be right back to that conversation. I want to quickly tell you about Copy Chief, the membership, the full load, the mother load. What goes on in there? You can get your copy reviewed by working pro copywriters. We do new trainings every month based on the stuff that's proven, tested, and working best in the market today. Not just copy, Facebook ads, webinars, all the stuff that you need in your funnel to optimize your sales. You're getting it in real time from the real pros inside of Copy Chief. Go to copychief.com/join and see what we got for you. Now, back to this amazing conversation. So let's talk about this idea of paying yourself first. Tell me what you mean by that, paying yourself first as a service provider, as an email copywriter. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So, for a long time, I've obviously been emailing my own list and been doing email marketing at a very high level for a lot of different brands. And I'm a big believer in or a big fan of wealth building books and things that kind of teach you the mindset that you need to be a good investor, right? And that's always the lens that I've looked at with my business. And I kind of developed this with my own business and then started applying it to the companies that I was working with. And what I realized that as I became a much busier freelancer, I realized that all of the things that I was, all of the stuff I had in my business, my stuff always got pushed to the back of the pile, right? Because there was a client had an emergency or a fire erupted, or I had to go, throw my schedule into a fit because something I forgot about, or whatever the case was, right? Like there was always something that was coming up because that's what business is like. And everyone pretty much is in the same boat. There's always unexpected things or things that change or pivots you need to make. And what I realized was after a while, I was like, I am paying everyone else with my time and my attention, my focus and my mental bandwidth and emotional bandwidth. And I'm not building any assets for myself. So I made this flip probably around the time that I joined the RFL Supergroup. And I said, I'm going to start paying myself first. There's that book, The Richest Man in Babylon. I think Kiyosaki talks about it and Rich Dad Poor Dad as well. But, they say that wealthy people always pay themselves first. It might be 10%, right? Whatever it is, the percentage doesn't matter, but it's some percentage, even if it's 1%. You take some of that money off the table before you pay your bills, before you pay your debts, before you worry about anybody else or payroll or anything. You put some money in your own pocket.
Right.
And I realized that this is kind of like the perfect way to describe what your email marketing system should be in your business. Because when you wake up, the very first thing you should do in your business is do something to put money into your bank account, right? Whether you have clients or customers or whatever it is, the most important thing that you could do as the business owner, as the rainmaker in your business, is to do one action that puts money into your pocket. And it doesn't have to necessarily be putting money into your pocket in the next 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But it's some kind of asset or some kind of action that's going to move you towards getting money. And that comes before anything else, because cash flow, it's like oxygen, right? Like without it, you're going to die. So, that is the main thing that you have to focus on. And the easiest way to do that is to send an email to your list, right? Especially if you're an e-commerce company. Like think about the mindset that most e-commerce companies have. They'll wake up and they'll say, oh, well, our ads are on and we're spending money and hopefully we get some sales. So they start off from a place of going negative before the money comes in, right? I like doing it the opposite way. I like saying, what can I do right now to bring in some money before we spend a penny today? Right. And if you get up and send an email to your list, you don't have to do it every day. You pick a frequency that you're comfortable with. But if you get up and make a conscious effort to put money into your pocket, number one, that's good for your mindset and it's good for your cash flow.
Yeah. And it gets you, again, you wake up with the customer in mind. If you think about what can I share today? What kind of conversation do I want to have today with them? And I think the other thing people do is they get so caught up on the stats of the email, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not thinking about the long-term relationships that, like you said, sending not 40% off again, but hey, how's it going? How about this? Not laissez-faire chit chat, but a point, a story, a connection that, again, like all the examples you show in your breakdowns. What's your URL again where people can see those?
theemailcopywriter.com, and just go to the bottom of the page and click articles and they're all there.
Yeah, you got to be on that list if you're not. Theemailcopywriter.com and watch Chris's breakdowns, man. They're brilliant. Because if you're sitting there wondering, okay, well, I have an e-commerce company or I'm B2B, I don't think this applies or I don't get how this works. you'll see examples in those breakdowns of how companies just like yours who could easily say, disqualify themselves from having a conversation with their customer, bring this incredible human element into it. Because like Chris said, if you wake up every day, I love that, man, and do something that's gonna, it isn't do it about like you said, oh, what's gonna move the needle today on sales? It's more about how do I think of my customer, my potential customer, my prospect as someone I'm in a relationship with, and what would I want to say to them today, right? Beyond 40% off, you should buy this now. If you happen to be in the market for a suit, glad we caught you.
Got him.
Yeah, it's like, you know how to make people more often ready right now is to make them love buying from you, right? I do this all the time, Chris, you probably do too. I will justify excuses in my head to spend money with companies I just love spending money with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just important for like any business owner to understand. Like the other day I sent an email about this topic about paying yourself first, right? Because I thought it was an important lesson I need to share. And I got a few replies back, but I got a reply from this one guy who he hasn't bought anything from me yet, but he uses all the articles I have, and he's used that free stuff and actually made a lot of sales in his business, which is always cool to see. But he said, he's like, man, it was so refreshing to hear this because my wife will tell me, oh, we need money for the school bill. And so I'll go and send some emails and come up with the money. But every time I think about how to grow my business, it's always, oh, should I do these retargeting ads, or should I create this new product? And he's like, you know what? It's refreshing to hear someone finally say, like, my job is to bring in the money every single day. And that's what I'm going to focus on, So I've always just found too, like, if you're the person who could do that, you can hire everything else out, right? But no one's going to work as hard as you are in your business in terms of bringing in the money, right? And like, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to write every single email yourself. Obviously, like, if you have a big organization, you have a team, that's fine. But you have to be in charge of the money getting.
Yeah, exactly right. And I love that he's like, oh, when the chips are down, I go send emails. And then when it's like, how else do I make money? How about you do more of the thing that's working?
Yeah.
And again, like sometimes getting a simple message from somebody. And I think it helps that you're so passionate about how there's no ignoring a Chris Orzechowski email or message, and it really hit home for him. So let's end on a practical note. So if you're sitting there thinking about, all right, I get it, just pay myself first. Where do I start? What's the first thing I do?
Yeah. So it really depends on where you at. Like, if you haven't been communicating with your list and maybe it's gone a little bit cold, you kind of just do one of those like reintroduction emails that aren't, the most fun things to write, because you have to acknowledge the fact that, hey, I'm sorry, I have not talked to you in a while, and you might not want to hear from me anymore, and that's perfectly fine. You give them options to either opt out or stay, but, tease some stuff you got going on, some cool stuff that you'll be sending them. And then after that, it's just picking a frequency of emailing your list and staying deadly consistent with it. And it could be one time a week, right? If that's all you could really muster. It could be every single day. It could be more than every single day. It could be twice a day if you really want to, if you have that kind of bandwidth and all the other infrastructure in your business set up to handle that kind of, sales and lead flow and everything. But whatever it is, whether it's 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, whatever it is, just be consistent and start sharing what you're doing in your business and what you're doing in your life. Like, those are the 2 big pillars that people, that encompass all of the topics people probably care about, right? They're going to think about, especially if you're an e-commerce business owner, right? Imagine you owned a store and someone came into your store. They'd have questions. You'd probably answer those questions with stories. You say, yeah, you know what? Oh, that's funny. You're looking at that product. A guy came in last week. You'll never believe what happened with this guy, and blah, blah. And, you go into the story. Those are all hooks for emails, right? Yeah. All of these messages and things that, if you imagine that you had a brick and mortar store where you were selling the exact same products and you were conversing with your customers, what would those conversations look like? All you need to do is take those topics and those ideas and put them into a story format in an email, send it out, and just segue into a product pitch.
Yeah, I love that. I think about when I'm in a retail store, how the really good clerks are great at the social proof of it, right? So they go, oh, I just bought that same shirt for myself. I love it. I never want to take it off. You're like, all right. That's a great choice. Oh man, and they do it so well. And like, this can't be true every time I buy something, but it seems to be. And so like that alone, like subject line could be great choice. Right. What's a great choice? You know, it would be cool. Like do that if like based on what somebody purchased, you know, because we don't want to follow up about, maybe we'll say, hey, take a survey. That drives me crazy when they're like, we still want to hear from you. I'm like, wow, what's in it for me to fill out the survey?
Yeah.
Right. It drives me crazy. But what if you wrote to me like 3 days later and go, hey man, great choice. Like that was really, I get you. You're a discerning customer. Like that, you know, you picking out that scarf, man, bro.
Yeah, bro. No scarf. Well, it's funny you say that, because one of the breakdowns I did was these two companies, Supply Razor Company, which is a gift I got from my wife for Christmas, which I love. It's a really cool razor. And then Lululemon. And it's funny because I actually got both of these emails like within a few days of each other. So they were both top of mind. And the breakdown I compared the two of them, and the Supply one was really well done. And the subject line was something like, you know, how do you like your razor? You know, versus the Lululemon one, which was like, leave us a review, you know? So it was completely two different conversations going on, asking for the same thing, right? Like one was like, hey, we're checking in. We want to know how you're feeling. Like, we care about you. The other one was like, hey, you have homework to do. Click this button and fill out this form right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was just it was like night and day looking at these two emails asking for the exact same thing side by side. But that's the thing. What good companies do is they think about, how do we create that conversation, that bond? And to go back to the investing analogy that I keep using, you know, how do I build that relationship capital so that I don't just have someone who's going to buy from me one time? I have someone who's going to buy from me over and over and over again. Right. And it's almost like there's a Dunbar's number, right? Where there's 150 relationships you could have with people at any given time in your mind. Like that's kind of the limit that scientists say, the cognitive limit for us. I think for brands, and I'm going to go out and brand this as Orzi's number, right? I'm going to create that right here on the spot.
Yeah.
Orzi's number is like, you might have about 75 brands that you can hold cognitively at any given time, right? So like, if you get razors from Supply, you're not going to also buy them from Harry's and also buy them from Gillette and also buy them from Dollar Shave Club. You have your one brand. So if you want to be one of those brands that is in the starting lineup, these are the kind of things that you need to do in order to develop that relationship with your people.
Oh man, that's great. I love that, dude. It reminds me of like the torture. Again, it's like bigger picture decisions, but this was a trend for a while where they print out your long ass paper receipt that you don't want. And then they pull out a pen and they circle the URL where you can go take the survey and be entered to win a $50 gift certificate. And you're like, don't torture me with this 30 seconds of thing I'm never going to do. Right.
Yeah.
But that's part of their job, and they got it. And that kind of marketing. And same with like offering me to apply for a credit card, you know, like a JC Penney level kind of, that's how they get people in. See how that's working for those companies, right? As opposed to, hey, human, thanks for coming in and buying something really cool. And we think you're cool just because you shop here and we're cool. So let's go off and be cool together and just enjoy the experience. You know, like, yeah, we got to do some marketing and have some stick. And we appreciate as direct response marketers, you know, some attempt at a follow through. But again, in the digital world, it's getting the barriers, like you said, are decreasing. There's ways just by virtue of paying now that we can have dialogue. I don't know all the rules around this, but it seems like more and more that's an open invitation now that I didn't necessarily agree to have these companies communicate with me. But the truth is, if I enjoyed my experience buying there, I'm open to, and they do a good job in their email, I'm open to the conversation. I'm happy to be a part of it, right?
Oh, yeah. And the one last thing I want to say on this is that in my Facebook group the other day, one of my students asked, you know, what do you tell a client who's an e-commerce company when they're really kind of obsessed with using, you know, the big branded email templates with the big picture and the border and all, you know, all the bells and whistles? And Jimmy Parent actually chimed in and had an awesome response. And I'm going to paraphrase it. Maybe I'll post it somewhere. It was really, really great. But the whole gist of it was, you know, people think branding means, oh, I'll just put a bigger, maybe even a bigger image than that, like of my logo. Like I'll put the biggest image of my logo possible in the email. And I'll get emails from people, and I'll see this too. It's like some shitty stock photo of like random people who aren't even employees of the company or customers. They're just random people that you got off pexels.com or whatever. Right. And it buries all the copy. And I'm like, that's not going to build your brand. Like what Jimmy said, which I totally agree with, was that your brand is built with every single experience you have with that company. So if every single experience is a positive experience that makes you feel good about yourself and makes you feel happy about it and makes you want to do it again, that's where your brand is built. And I think there's no truer, version of that you could see in email marketing.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true, because it just feels like some company told them, based on our data, people respond to smiling faces. So make sure that's the first thing. And then they'll have positive association with your brand. It's like, really? But, that's every time I see that, I'm like, okay, that's one less competitor.
Yeah.
They don't know how to be human. So we're good. All right. Great stuff, Chris, as always. So again, theemailcopywriter.com. That's where you need to go. And by the way, you can get a free copy of Chris's book, Make It Rain, there on his site. And you definitely want to get on the wait list. I don't know if they can sign up for the newsletter yet, Chris. Make It Rain Monthly. Is that already open to purchase, or is that coming up?
It's coming up, depending on when this drops, but I will definitely be paying myself first and emailing every single day about it until it launches. I'll be eating my own cooking.
Good, man. Yeah, dude, I'm excited. I can't wait as a subscriber to get the newsletter, because like I said, it's like, look, I've had newsletters in the past where, I don't know, they're sort of not evergreen. And I feel like I watch them stack up. And if I haven't read them, I'm like, I feel weird about, I got to cancel that because I'm not reading them. Right. With yours, what's again unique and different is it's not just going to be, here's what was on Chris's mind. Here, I'm just puking my thoughts for you. And I'm sending it. It's different because it's in the mail. It's actually, I feel like, man, this is this thing I'm going to covet, that I'm going to collect over time when I get your newsletter. And it's like one of those things, the house is on fire. And I'm like, oh, wait, I got to go get that folder with Chris's shit. It is cool because it's physical, and it's fun to just sit down with a newsletter and read it and have a different relationship. It's not digital. There's no distractions. So it's just a different way to experience the content. And in your case, even better, because it's an ongoing file you're building that is like your playbook for how to email.
Yeah. It's like compound interest through email. Like each issue is it's designed to make you money, and it's designed to build. It's this whole big system that will build, and it's just one main thing to do every single month. You get it, you do it, and then you make it rain.
Awesome, brother. Great stuff. Chris Orzechowski, appreciate it, man. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks so much, Kev. Appreciate it.
Hey, you want to be on the inside of all the best converting campaigns in marketing, the latest, greatest copywriting techniques? Find out what's really working today from people out there making it work, doing the testing, getting the results, sharing with you, reverse engineering great copywriting, plus a whole catalog of trainings to help you do everything from write better story, better email, Facebook ads, YouTube scripts. We got it all for you inside at Copy Chief. Go check out copychief.com/join to learn how to become a member. And if you'd like my free book, The 60-Second Sales Hook, where I turned a joke formula into an irresistible sales hook that you can deliver in under 60 seconds, go to 60secondsaleshook.com. Grab yourself a free copy.